Hey, welcome to the World Storytelling Cafe. And here, from, from, from the depths of the universe, she is sped on her spacecraft from the rings of Saturn to this very studio. Could you please welcome and put your hands together for Clare Goodhall? And hello, Louis, and hello, Donald.
Hello.
Hello. Hi, right. Well, thank you for that lovely introduction, John. Joy as ever. And wishing all the people with COVID that they have a speedy recovery, because it's far too many people. And you all, I send love and best wishes and good vibes for you, because it's a tough time. But hopefully a few good stories will keep you going. And I thought I'd start with one of my favourite tales. This one is called Chanticlear and the Fox. And this one, you're not allowed to have favourite stories. And if I was allowed to have a favourite story, this might be my favourite story, but I'm not allowed to have one, so it isn't it. So this is a story of a cockerel, a male hen, and he was proud. He had the reddest comb, the yellowest feathers, and the bluest legs, and he could crow every hour on the hour between 8 in the morning and 6 in the evening. Cock-a-doodle-doo! And it meant that all the animals on the farm where Chanticlear lived knew what time it was. All the pigs knew what time it was. And is anybody out there, if you fancy doing a pig noise for me, I could have a pig noise. And all the sheep knew what time it was. And any sheep out there, any sheep impressionists, I'll have some sheep noises. And all the other chickens knew what time it was. And all the horses knew what time it was. Can I have some neighs? Can anyone give me a neigh? John is a veritable animal impressionist. And all the geese knew what time it was. And all the dogs knew what time it was. And this was quite impressive, because this is a set at a time when most people didn't know what time it was. If you wanted to know the time, you had to live near an abbey or a town and listen out for the bells. But on this farm, all the animals knew what time it was, because Chanticlear would crow every hour on the hour between 8 in the morning and 6 in the evening. And that had made Chanticlear proud. And so he would strut about the farmyard. Hello, I'm Chanticlear. Hello, no, don't get up. I know you're overwhelmed to meet me. And he would strut around. Hello, I'm Chanticlear. I crow every hour on the hour between 8 in the morning and 6 in the evening. And it's just what I do. What I do is so good. Oh, in fact, it's time. Well, Chanticlear was proud, but Chanticlear had a wife, and his wife was called Pertelotte, and she would say to Chanticlear, 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 you should not be so proud. We are all equal in God's eyes, and you should not be so proud. And Chanticlear was said, I know we're all equal in God's eyes. I know, but some of us are just that little bit more equal than others. In fact, some of us might be a lot more equal than others, and some of us might be me. And there was nothing Pertelotte could do, nothing Pertelotte could say that would make Chanticlear less proud. And she thought, he had to agree, he did have the reddest combs, the yellowest feathers, and the bluest legs, but he was so proud. Now, one day, we don't know if it's because he had heard Chanticlear's voice. We don't know if it was because he had heard of Chanticlear sing, but one day to the farm there came a fox. And while Chanticleer strutted around the farmyard, the fox crept up. And Chanticleer strutted, and the fox crept up. And Chanticleer was strutting around, and he turned around, and he saw the fox, and he moved to run away. And the fox said, Chanticleer, Chanticleer, do not run away. I have only come to hear you sing. And Chanticleer thought, well, it's true. My voice is beautiful, and I shouldn't be prejudiced against foxes just because they're foxes, because I am that awesome. So, yes, fox, because you've come to hear me sing, I will sing for you, and it's about the time anyway, so... Oh, that's amazing! That's amazing, said the fox. But I'm a little deaf in this ear. I'm just a little deaf in this ear. You couldn't come closer, could you? You couldn't do that again, just that little bit closer, could you? You couldn't just... And the fox ran off into the woods with Chanticleer in his jaws. Now, this would have been a fair end for our proud cockerel, except that Pertalot, Chanticleer's wife, had seen what happened and raised a hue and cry that only a chicken could, and set off. And this hue and cry set the dogs going. Can I have some dogs? All those dogs earlier, more dogs. And that set the sheep going, and that set the horses going, and that set the chickens going, the geese going, and all the animals ran after Chanticleer and the fox, making such a noise that God in his heaven looked down to see what was going on. Well, this was more than the fox had expected. He hadn't expected an entire farmyard to be running after him. And he didn't know what to do. And Chanticleer said, I know my wife. There's nothing you can do that will change her mind, even if you opened your mouth to bark at her. And the fox was thinking, I've got to do something. I've got this entire farmyard running after me. And so he opened his mouth, and instantly Chanticleer ran off and climbed a tree. And the fox said, oh, Chanticleer, this has all been such a terrible mistake. I was only taking you to see my children. I'm sure you find the fox quite believable, but Chanticleer in his tree might have been vain. Chanticleer in his tree might have been proud, but Chanticleer in his tree was not falling for that one. So there was nothing the fox could say or do that would make Chanticleer come out of his tree, and with all the animals from the farm coming, all the chickens, all the horses, all the geese, all the sheep, all the dogs, and if anyone fancies making some dog noises, and some sheep noises, and some horse noises, all the noise that was coming after Chanticleer, and the fox was forced to run away into the wood without his supper. And Chanticleer got down from his tree, a sadder but wiser bird. And that is my story of Chanticleer and the fox. Now, that story is actually, the version I'm telling it is from a load of stories called the Canterbury Tales. Now, from the 14th century, there's a huge number of stories about foxes. In fact, there's a whole called Reynard the Fox, where he gets up to a lot of quite awful things. But this is an even earlier story of a fox, because foxes seem to be animals that gather stories to them. And this story is so much older. This story is thousands of years old. But you may have heard of something from it. There once was a fox, and this fox, and we don't know how, found himself at the bottom of a steep, deep well. And the walls were very high, and the walls were such that the fox couldn't get his little claws in any of them. And the well was steep and deep, and there was water at the bottom of it, but there was no way the fox could get out, and nobody knew where he was. And just as the fox was thinking, well, what's going to become of me? I can't get out. I can't get out of this steep, deep well. And nobody knows I'm here. And just as he was thinking that he was going to be trapped there and that would be the end of him, he heard a voice on the top of the well. And the voice said, hello, fox. And the fox looked up and said, hello, goat. Because at the top of the well, there was a goat. And the goat said, hello, fox. Is the water good? Is the water sweet? Is it nice down there? Is the water down the bottom of that steep, deep well? Is it tasty? And the fox said, yes, goat. Down the bottom of this steep, deep well, the water's fine. The water's lovely. Down the bottom of this steep, deep well, I'm not going to die of thirst. And the goat said, that's great, and jumped straight down. And the fox could not believe his foxy eyes. And he was, goat, you just jumped down a steep, deep well. Did you look before you leapt? Was there any looking before there was leaping? And the goat, oh, I was really thirsty. And this water, oh, it's really sweet, fox. It was really nice. And you see, I was thirsty, and I'm not really one for looking before I'm leaping. I'm much more of a leaper. I'm a goatie in my leapiness. And now you mention it, how do you get out? The fox put his paws over his eyes and said, goat, I was trapped down the steep, deep well. You should have looked before you leapt. And the goat says, but Fox, you're clever. Everyone knows foxes are clever. There's all these stories about how clever foxes are. Surely a clever fox would be able to find his way out of a steep, deep well. And the fox said, okay, good. Perhaps if you stand on your hind legs and you put your front legs against the side of the well, I can run up your back, and if I jump, I might be able to put my little paws on the top of the well and get myself out. And then once I'm out of the well, I'm sure a little fox can get a big goat out of a steep, deep well. Yes, a little fox and a big goat. And the goat says, well, that sounds like a plan to me. And the fox thought, right, you can't help some people. And the goat put his front feet against the side of the well, and the fox ran up his back and from the top was able to jump and just to get his little paws on the edge of the well and was able to scramble out. And the fox said, looking down the well, well, thanks, goat. Thanks, goat, for that. I really appreciate that. That's really kind. I don't know what I was going to do before you came along, and I appreciate it, but I've got to go. I've got people to see, things to do. You know how it is. And the goat said, Fox, you were going to get me out of the steep, deep well. You were. I'm in a steep, deep well, Fox. You were going to help me out. And the fox says, how? I'm a little fox. You're a big goat. I don't even have opposable thumbs. How was I supposed to get you out of the steep, deep well? You should have looked before you leapt. And I'm sorry, but I've got to go. And off went the fox. And so that left the goat in the well. The goat A fox is right. I don't know how a little fox can get a big goat out of a steep, deep well. I don't know. Well, all I can say is that next time I will look before I leap. And that is my story of a fox and a goat. So I tell a lot of stories, because that one is from ancient Greece. It's an Aesop's fable. I might be telling a few other little Aesop's fables, because I love Aesop's fables. They're terrific little stories. But I tell what's the medieval, and I also play music. So I thought, as I was here, I might give you a tune on a couple of instruments I've got. This one here, try and make sure you can see all of it, is my beautiful crumb horn. Now, crumb horns are these marvellous instruments. They turn up about the end of the 14th century in Europe. And they've got this amazing sound to them. And the thing you've got to remember above all about a crumb horn is this curve. It's created not by carving wood in this shape, is that you carve it straight and then you fill it full of hot sand and you steam it for days and then you bend it into this shape. And it's really hard work, and they can snap and they can be damaged. And there's no reason why you bend it like this. It does nothing to the sound. It's no benefit at all. It's just how crumb horns are. They are a marvellous, eccentric instrument. And I think I'll give you a little tune on this one. One thing I didn't mention, it takes a lot of puff to play these. So now all out of breath, but it's a lovely, lovely sound. I absolutely adore these. I've actually got 4 of them, and sometimes I get my live looping kit and I play a consort of music, and it sounds amazing. And I almost did it today, but I thought we should concentrate on the stories. But this is a beautiful thing. They're all rather lovely. I do have another few instruments, which I will probably play later. In the meantime, while I'm recovering from that blast, I think I'll tell another Aesop's fable, because I do like them. And this one concerns a wolf, because we're not going away from the fox too far. A wolf and a crane. Now, wolves, given a chance, will eat a crane, but a crane is a large bird and is quite capable of flying away from most wolves. But the wolf will get them every now and then, because wolves are clever. Not as clever as foxes. But one day, there was this wolf, and from eating something, and I'm sure it wasn't a crane, had got a bone stuck right down in his throat. And the wolf couldn't shift it. There was nothing he could do to get at the bone. It couldn't get at it, and he couldn't swallow anything. And he was thinking, well, what's going to become of me? If I can't swallow, what's going to become of me? And just as he was thinking about it, he saw a crane in a tree. And he looked at the crane, because cranes have got long, slender beaks. And he called up to the crane and said, "Crane, crane, if you use your long, slender beak to get this bone out of my throat, I will give you something that no other crane, no other bird, nobody else would have." And the crane thought, "What's that?" And the crane was quite interested, but didn't really trust the wolf. But he did come a bit closer. I mean, the wolf had a bone in his throat and he couldn't eat him, but he could still probably bite him in some way. And he got a bit close and said, You'll give me something. You'll give me something that nobody else has got." And the wolf said, "On my honour as a wolf, I will indeed. If you get this bone out of my throat, I promise I will give you something that you've never heard of anybody else having. It is beyond comparison. Nobody will have it." And the crane was interested. I mean, would the wolf lie about that? I mean, wolves, you can't trust them, but they wouldn't lie about that, would they? So the crane kind of got a bit closer and tried to get that little bit closer and said, "You're going to give me something. You're going to give me something that nobody else has." And the wolf said, "Yeah." And the crane got that bit closer, got that little more closer to the wolf. And he didn't trust him. But the wolf, with running hind legs, opened his mouth and waited. I won't bite you or anything, honest. If you get the bone out, I'll give you something really special. And the crane very, very carefully moved forward and darted and got the bone out of the wolf's throat and instantly flew up back into the trees. And the wolf went, "Oh, that's so much better. Oh, that's so much better." And the crane said, "Well, what about my gift, wolf? What about what you promised me?" And the wolf said, "Well, I'll give you something that is, without doubt, unusual. I have just given it to you already, though, because you can now tell everybody you've ever met that you had your head in a wolf's throat and you lived to tell the tale." And the crane said, "But that's not a gift." And the wolf says, "You gotta say, no one else can say that." And with that, the wolf trotted off, and the crane had to admit that it was true. And he did indeed tell anyone who'd listened that he was a crane who had got his head all the way down a wolf's throat and had lived to tell the tale. And that's my Aesop fable of a wolf and a crane. So, another story, another tune, quick tune on this one. There's another reed instrument because you can't get enough of these. This one's it's called a Shalamo. It's like an early clarinet. So this story. Now this story isn't as old as the last two. This is a story that's set, and it's a story you've probably heard of. It's set in the East, and it concerns a king. Now this king was a popular king until, that is, his wife was unfaithful to him And he was so angry that she was unfaithful to him. Not merely did he have her executed, but that he vowed no woman would ever betray him again. And every day he said, I will marry a new woman, and as the sun rises above the horizon, every day I will have her taken away and executed. Then she will never have a chance to betray me. Now, all in all, I think we can agree this is a bit of an overreaction to the situation. Yes, he was upset, but to take a new bride every day, and when the sun comes above the horizon, to have her taken away and executed? But he was the king, and everyone had to do what the king said. And so every day the king was given a new bride, and as the sun rose above the horizon, every day she was taken away to be executed. And suddenly the king was no longer popular because all the people worried about their daughters. Before, they'd love to have had their daughter be the bride of a king. But now, who wants to be a queen for one day? In that day, yes, the queen could have anything she wanted. She could wear the most beautiful clothes. She could go and eat whatever she wanted. She could order anything she wanted except to live beyond the sun going above the horizon. And it was the vizier who had to get all these brides, and he found it was getting harder and harder to find brides for the king. Because people said, oh, I don't have a daughter anymore. Oh, she's gone. She's gone. She had to go. It's very important. She couldn't stay. But still, the vizier would find another bride from somewhere, and she would be queen for just one day. And it got to the point where the vizier's daughter, came to her father and said, Father, I cannot bear one more day where my sisters are taken to the king to be queen for just one day, and they can ask for anything except to live beyond having the sun go above the horizon. Next day, tomorrow, when you take the new bride to the king, you shall take me. You shall take me, and I shall be the king's new bride. And the vizier said, my daughter, you do know that just because you are my daughter, the king won't make an exception. You too will be queen for a day. You can have anything you want. You can have the finest foods, the finest clothes. You can command anyone except to live before the sun goes above the horizon. And the daughter said, I know. And she would not take no for an answer. So the next day came, and when the vizier brought the new bride to the king, it was his own daughter. And the king recognized her and said, but that's your daughter. And the vizier said, I know, she insists. And the king says, you know that I won't make an exception. She can have everything she wants. She can be queen for a day, but when the sun goes above the horizon, she will be taken away and executed like all my other wives. And the vizier said, I know, but I couldn't change her mind. And so the vizier's daughter became queen, married the king, and for that day she wore the finest clothes, she ate the beautifulest, finest foods. She could ask for anything she wanted except to live past the sun coming up above the horizon. And as the day wore on, the vizier's daughter turned to the king and said, Your Majesty, in this one day I have together, I will be the best wife I can. But may I ask one boon? An hour before the sun rises above the sunrise, an hour before sunrise, can my sister Dunazard come to me so that I can say goodbye to her before you take me off to be executed? And the king didn't see himself as a cruel man. He didn't see himself as unreasonable. And he thought, well, it's a harmless thing to ask. For my wife's sister to come and say goodbye to her sister before the sunrise? Yes, he agreed that Dunazard could come an hour before sunrise, an hour before the sun went above the horizon, an hour before she would be taken away and executed. And that's what happened. So Dunazard came, and in the room with Dunazard, the king and his wife, Dunazad said, Scheherazade, Scheherazade, in an hour's time the sun will come above the horizon. You will be taken away and executed. Oh, Scheherazade, Scheherazade, before that happens, can you tell me one last story? And Scheherazade, because that was the vizier's daughter's name, turned to the king and said, Your Majesty, my sister asks for one last story. May I tell her one? And the king was quite keen, because Scheherazade was renowned as being one of the best storytellers in the land. And the king thought he would like to hear one last story from Scheherazade as well. And so he agreed that Scheherazade could tell her sister one last story before the sun came above the horizon and she was taken away and executed. And this is the story that Scheherazade told. There once was a fisherman, and he was a good, honest man. He was a good fisherman, but it's not a wealthy life being a fisherman. And he only just managed to feed his family. Every day he would throw his nets upon the water. Every day he would pull them back in. And if there was fish in the nets, he would feed his family. And if there wasn't, they would go hungry. And sometimes there were more fish than his family needed that day, and he would sell them. But it wasn't enough to cover the days he had no fish and his family went hungry. And one day when he threw his nets upon the water, pulled them back in, there was in there a vial. A beautiful glass vial, filled, it looked like, with some kind of precious substance. And the fisherman thought, never have I seen something so beautifully made, with gilded and silver. Never have I seen something so fine. I can sell this, and with the money I make, I can keep my family fed on the days that I don't get enough fish. But I better know what's inside it, because it could be spices. It could be coal that the ladies use around their eyes. And if I know what it is, I can probably get more money for it. So he took out the lid of the vial. And instantly a huge genie came out. He was big and he was blue. And he said to the fisherman, You opened up the vial in which I was trapped. You opened it up. And because of that, I now ask you to choose the manner of your death. Well, the fisherman was a bit surprised at this. What do you mean, choose the manner of my death? I've just released you from the vial. Shouldn't you be granting me wishes or something? At least something to help me feed my family. Why are you asking me to choose the manner of my death? And the genie says, for 300 years, I have been trapped inside this vial. In the first 100 years, I vowed the person who released me, I would give them 3 wishes, and I am a powerful genie. And those 3 wishes could have got them anything they could even imagine. But nobody came. And in the second 100 years, I vowed that whoever came and released me from the vial, I would make them the richest person in the whole world. And I am a powerful genie. I can make anything I command or want to happen. And they who had released me would have had gold to put under their feet. They would have had gold taps. They could have bathed in gold. But nobody came. And in the third 100 years, I vowed anyone who came would be allowed to choose the manner of their death for having taken so long to come to release me. And you have released me. So I say to you, choose the manner of your death. Choose the manner of your death, or I'll choose it for you. And you don't want me to choose how you will die. And the genie, who was huge and powerful, got closer and closer to the fisherman. He got closer and closer, and the fisherman didn't know what to do. And suddenly the sun came up. And Scheherazade said, "Well, I'm sorry, Your Majesty. I have to now be taken away and executed. It's your decree." But the king said, "But what happens to the fisherman?" And Scheherazade said, "I'm so sorry, Your Majesty. I would love to tell you the story, but the sun has come up above the horizon, and I have to go away and be executed, unless you give me one more day of life. Give me one more day of life. Tomorrow I can be taken away and executed when the sun comes above the horizon. And with that one more day of life, I will tell you how the story ends." Well, the king really wanted to know how the story ended. The king wanted to know if the fisherman got away from the genie. And he thought, just one more day? What can she do in one more day? Just one more day. So he said, "Scheherazade, Scheherazade, you shall have one more day of life, but only one more day. When the sun goes above the horizon tomorrow morning, you will be taken away and executed." And Scheherazade said, "That's all I've asked for." And so she continued the story. So the genie was closer. The genie was getting closer. And the fisherman said, "I don't believe you were trapped in there. I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all. You're lying. You're making it up. You're just some kind of evil jinn who's pretending to be trapped. You just like going around doing awful things to fishermen, innocent fishermen." And the genie says, "Nobody calls me a liar." And the fisherman says, "I can call you a liar. You're going to kill me anyway. What can you do? I will call you a liar unless you prove you came from that vial." And the genie says, "No one calls me a liar. I was trapped in there." "Prove it," said the fisherman. "Go back in." And so the genie, this huge, great blue genie, swirled around, went into the thing, and the fisherman put the lid back on. And then he hid the vial in wax and in the ground so that nobody else would again be terrorized by that terrible genie. And that was Scheherazade's story of the first day. And every day that would happen, just as the sun would rise, Scheherazade would be telling a story, and every day the king would give her one more day of life. And she told so many tales because she was the greatest storyteller in the land. She's told stories of men and of women, both foolish and wise, of traps and treasures and those in disguise, of kings and viziers who ruled for a while, and even the 40 thieves of Ali Baba with a smile. And for 1,001 nights, Scheherazade told the king the finest stories. The finest stories that were ever had were laid before the king, and every day the king gave Scheherazade one more day of life. And Scheherazade gave the king 3 fine, healthy sons. And it came to the 1,001th night. And the king settled to hear stories as he'd done for the previous 1,000 nights. But instead of telling her story, Scheherazade said, "Your Majesty, for 1,001 nights, I have told you the finest stories in the whole land. I have given you 3 fine sons. And I ask you, can you stop saying you're going to kill me in the morning?" And the king thought, when I had my wife executed and I was marrying a new woman every day, I think I might have overreacted. Scheherazade, I cannot give them their lives back, but I can say I will never ever do such a thing again. You are my wife, and you will be my wife for the rest of my life, and there's nothing that you can do that will make me say that I will have you executed in the morning. And with that, Scheherazade and the king were able to live happily ever after, and once again the king became loved as he once again started properly looking after his subjects. And that is my story of 1001 Nights. How are we doing for time? What is it? What time for one more? Oh, I can't hear you, John.
Unmute.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course you've got time. A short one, little one would do very nicely.
Oh, another one. It's got to be an Aesop's fable then.
Absolutely. It's been a great night. Excuse me, I've been sitting in a chair next to you, which is why I put myself out of sight.
You need to look after yourself, John. You need to take care. Okay. Right. Another Aesop's fable. Okay, this one I like. I like all of them. This one's quite fun. There once was a father who had a son, and the father was very worried that his son never had his own opinion. He always listened too much to other people, and if they said something, he agreed, and he didn't think about whether he ought to agree or whether it was right. He just agreed. And one day, the father and the son were taking a donkey to market so the donkey could carry their wares back. And as they were walking along, people the other direction said, "That's a bit odd. They're leading a donkey to market. There's nothing on the donkey. One of them should be riding." And the people passed by. And the son said, Dad, they're right. One of us should be riding the donkey. It's going to be a long day. It's going to be a long day. We shouldn't be exhausted. I know, I'll get up on the donkey. And so the son got up on the donkey. And the next group, I think, passed. And they said, "What's going on there? That young man riding a donkey when his old father is having to walk to market? That's not respectful. That's not respectful to your elders. I don't know the like of it." And they walked past. And the son said, Dad, they're right. You should be riding the donkey. I'll walk, you ride the donkey. And so the son got off and he got his father to get back onto the donkey. And so they went on the market. Father on the donkey, son leading it. Next group of people following them said, "Well, that young lad leading the donkey looks as though the wind will blow him over. And the man on the donkey, he looks as though he could lift the skies on his shoulder. That doesn't look right to me. That's not what I call right. Things people do today, it's outrageous." And they walked off. And the son said, Dad, they're right. I can't get on instead of you because those people said that wasn't right. I know. We'll both ride the donkey to market. Yes, that's what we'll do. So the son got onto the donkey behind his father. And the next group of people who came along said, "What are they doing? Two of those men, big men like that, on a little donkey? And that donkey, I bet you, is going to go to market and come back as loaded. They're going to kill that donkey, that poor donkey. I don't think that's right. They're going to need that donkey and it's going to be dead." And off they went. And the son said, Dad, they're right. We need this donkey. If this donkey dies because it's got too much loaded onto it, I don't know what we're going to do. We need to get off the donkey, but we can't get off the donkey. We can't lead the donkey because when we led the donkey, they said we shouldn't lead the donkey. When I got on the donkey, they said that was wrong. When you got on the donkey, when I was both of the donkeys, what we've got to do, I know, we'll carry the donkey. And the father, at this point, had enough. And he said, "I've done it all. I've done what you've asked. I've got on the donkey. I've got off the donkey. I got on the donkey again with you. I've got off the donkey. And what I'm not doing is carrying the donkey. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't listen to other people. I'm saying you should judge whether they know more about what's happening than you do. How can people passing by know more about us and our donkey? We should decide what's the best way for us to go to market with our donkey, and we then should do that. And if everybody disagrees with it, that's because they don't know us and they don't know our donkey. We are never going to please everybody. Somebody is going to criticize us. Somebody is going to say we're doing the wrong thing. But we should be deciding that we think we're doing the right thing. So how are we going to market? And the son said, well, I have to say, I think we should just leave the donkey. And that's what they did. And that's my last story.
And I love that story, Claire. And you, yeah, it's brilliant. I can't believe that you haven't had a program of your own before.
Oh, I haven't. Oh,
no, no. Well, it's only when I only realised it when we went to schedule and we realised you didn't have an artist page.
Yes, and you spelt my surname wrong.
Who has?
It's got an H in it.
Has it got an H in it?
Yeah.
I could have sworn I spelled it right. But well, I bet we better change that then.
Yeah.
And put an H in it. Actually, I looked at it this morning without an H, and I thought I could have sworn that had an H in it.
Well,
Never mind.
It shouldn't have an H in it.
Pardon?
It shouldn't have an H in it, and it does.
Well, on my Facebook page, I didn't put an H in it.
Oh, it's on this cafe. It's got an H in it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's probably a misspelling I sent Ali. For which I apologize. But it's been a fantastic night. Can we have a round of applause for Claire? Amazing. And what have we got coming up? Sunday. This Sunday, a double header. We have this is UK times, British summer time, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Live stories again from the cafe. This is every Sunday now. We have live stories from the World Storytelling Cafe in Marrakesh by the new Marrakesh tellers. And then at 7 o'clock, an hour later than usual, because so it doesn't clash with the afternoon in Marrakesh, we have our worldwide story round. So 2 programs on Sunday. Please come and tell stories on the worldwide story round, everybody, anyone who's listening. Mm-hmm. Tuesday, of course, at 4:30 UK time is our young storytellers. And next Friday, to celebrate the fact that I will by this time have recovered totally. And sadly, of course, I can then re-enter the world. But I will be telling children's stories for children myself next Friday. If Louis will let me. Is that okay with you, Louis?
What's it again, John?
Is it okay if I tell the stories next Friday?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
I will allow you to do 3 stories for the rest of this meeting, okay? Okay,
I'll do 3 stories, and I'll better find some stories. But as I'm in splendiferous isolation all week, I better find some new stories I can practice for Friday.
Oh, brilliant!
Okay, well, new old stories, so to speak, and then and then the whole thing just carries on as is. Ali in Marrakesh, Ramadan is well underway. started yesterday. Oh no, it started today. I think Ramadan started
Yeah,
today.
I think it was today.
Yes, Ramadan starts for a day, goes for months. Which is one of the reasons the times have all changed sort of weirdly, not weirdly, but differently in Morocco. Meanwhile, thank you very much, Claire. Have yourselves a wonderful week. See you all on Sunday, hopefully. And Louis, we'll see you next Friday. Or any other time you care to join us. And Donald, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you, John. I hope you're feeling better soon.
Yeah, hope everybody's feeling better. So many people got COVID.
Yeah, well, I feel quite commonplace at the moment.
You are always exceptional, John.
I'm merely one of 5 million in this country at the moment. But it's Louis, you feel better soon. And
Yeah.
hope your mum feels better as well.
Yeah, my mum says thank you. Because I feel a lot better now with it, and my mum is a lot better as well. But she's on cold. I got a very bad cough for a very long time for it now, and I keep looking after her a lot of times. I just hope your lovely people came to have to buy some supping for us as well. They're so kind to give us some food. They don't have to be wondering. So
Yeah, people are kind in these things. Meanwhile, fare thee well, and see you later. Bye.
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 Bye. Thank you, Ali, for driving the magic carpet. Bye.
Bye.